When my daughter-in-law systematically switched my heart medication bought with look-alike pills to trigger a fatal cardiac episode while positioning herself as the devoted caregiver. Managing my declining health, she never suspected she was targeting Dr. Margaret Maggie Sterling, the former Chief of Cardiac Toxicology at the National Poison Control Center, who had personally investigated over 400 cases of medication tampering and maintained direct relationships with federal investigators, medical examiners, and pharmaceutical fraud specialists who could expose her lethal scheme with a single blood test that would send her to federal prison for attempted murder. Before I reveal how, I systematically documented every switched pill, every forged medical record, every calculated dosage manipulation, and every fabricated health emergency that would result in federal charges for attempted murder, aggravated elder abuse, pharmaceutical fraud, and conspiracy to commit homicide that would destroy not just her criminal scheme, but her entire life, freedom, career, and any possibility of escaping the devastating consequences of targeting the one person in the entire medical community whose specialized expertise in cardiac drug interactions, toxicological analysis, and pharmaceutical crime investigation would guarantee her immediate detection, comprehensive prosecution, and complete personal annihilation through the most sophisticated forensic medicine protocols ever deployed against a medication tampering case. Let me paint you the picture of what she saw versus the sexual reality she never suspected. A miscalculation so catastrophic that it would transform her systematic attempt to commit the perfect pharmaceutical murder into the most thoroughly documented case of medication homicide in federal court history, providing prosecutors with irrefutable evidence for maximum sentences under federal elder abuse and attempted murder statutes. To Victoria Chen, my daughter-in-law, I was just Margaret Sterling, the frail 74-year-old woman recovering from a mild heart attack in my secluded mountain cabin at 4827 Pine Ridge Valley Road, who had grown increasingly dependent on family assistance following my recent cardiac episode at Riverside Regional Medical Center, who seemed overwhelmed by the complex array of prescription medications including metoprolol, lisinopril, warfarin, and atorvastatin, that had accumulated during my 3-month recovery period under Dr. James Patterson's cardiac care supervision, who, clearly, needed her dedicated pharmaceutical expertise and nursing background to help manage my daily medication schedules, blood pressure monitoring, and medical appointments during what appeared to be my declining months following what she presented to my son David as my progressively deteriorating cardiac condition, requiring intensive family oversight, and who would obviously benefit from her systematic supervision of my healthcare decisions, while she secretly orchestrated the most sophisticated medication tampering scheme involving carefully researched cardiac drug substitutions that she believed would result in my natural-appearing death from acute cardiac failure, allowing her to inherit my substantial $2.3 million estate, including the mountain property, investment portfolios, and life insurance policies, while positioning herself as the heartbroken family member who had done everything humanly possible to save her beloved mother-in-law during her tragic final battle with coronary heart disease and medication management complications. What Victoria never discovered, despite her meticulous 6-month research into cardiac medications, using her pharmacy technician access at Mountain View Medical Center, her systematic study of my daily routines and medication timing through careful observation during her twice-weekly caring visits, and her detailed analysis of my prescribed drug regimen through unauthorized access to my medical records via her hospital computer login credentials, was that Margaret Sterling had spent 32 years climbing from emergency room nurse at Denver General Hospital in 1989 to Chief of Cardiac Toxicology at the National Poison Control Center in Atlanta, personally investigating over 400 cases of medication tampering, pharmaceutical fraud, systematic poisoning schemes, and cardiac drug manipulation involving elderly victims, coordinating with federal law enforcement agencies, including the FBI's Healthcare Fraud Division, the DEA's Pharmaceutical Crime Unit, and the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General during major criminal prosecutions that resulted in hundreds of convictions for attempted murder, elder abuse, and systematic pharmaceutical crimes, and maintaining active professional relationships with medical examiners, forensic toxicologists, federal investigators, pharmaceutical crime specialists, and cardiac forensic pathologists who specialized in exactly the type of systematic medication manipulation, cardiac drug tampering, and elderly pharmaceutical exploitation that she was about to attempt against someone whose entire professional career had been dedicated to detecting, documenting, analyzing, and prosecuting the precise type of pharmaceutical homicide schemes that Victoria was systematically planning to execute against what she assumed was just another vulnerable elderly victim with valuable assets, trusting family relationships, and no professional connections to detect or prevent sophisticated medication fraud and elder abuse through pharmaceutical manipulation and cardiac drug substitution schemes. The irony was so breathtakingly perfect, so precisely orchestrated by cosmic justice, so mathematically impossible to be mere coincidence, that if I had written it as a medical thriller for publication, every editor and publisher in New York would have rejected it as too impossibly convenient, too perfectly aligned, and too unbelievably coincidental to be credible to readers seeking realistic medical crime fiction. Here was Victoria Chin, a pharmacy technician with 8 years of experience at Mountain View Medical Center's pharmaceutical dispensary, systematically planning to commit cardiac medication tampering and systematic pharmaceutical murder against what she perceived as a helpless elderly woman recovering from heart problems in an isolated mountain cabin with limited family oversight and minimal medical supervision, while sitting across the kitchen table from Dr. Margaret Sterling, the architect of the very pharmaceutical crime detection protocols that federal agencies use to expose medication tampering schemes, the designer of the toxicological analysis methodologies that courts relied upon to prove pharmaceutical murder beyond any shadow of reasonable doubt, the Memonet, developer of the cardiac drug interaction databases that investigators consulted during suspicious death investigations, and the person whose professional relationships with federal medical crime investigators, forensic toxicologists, and pharmaceutical fraud specialists would ensure that her lethal medication switching scheme would trigger immediate comprehensive forensic investigation, systematic toxicological analysis, and federal criminal prosecution, rather than the peaceful natural death from cardiac complications that she was counting on for her financial salvation, inheritance windfall, and escape from the mounting gambling debts and credit card obligations that had driven her to contemplate pharmaceutical murder as her only solution to financial ruin. Victoria was attempting pharmaceutical murder against someone whose entire professional legacy had been built on detecting, analyzing, and prosecuting pharmaceutical murder through advanced toxicological analysis and forensic medicine protocols. She was conducting systematic cardiac drug tampering against the person who had personally trained federal investigators, DEA pharmaceutical crime specialists, and medical examiners in recognizing the precise patterns of medication manipulation, dosage calculation errors, drug interaction schemes, and cardiac medication substitution techniques that she was employing. Through her systematic replacement of my prescribed metoprolol with carefully selected look-alike tablets containing compounds that would trigger acute cardiac arrhythmia when combined with my existing warfarin prescription, she was committing attempted homicide through pharmaceutical manipulation against the individual who had developed the Roulette, comprehensive toxicological analysis techniques, blood chemistry protocols, and DILs, cardiac drug detection methodologies, that courts throughout North America used to prosecute medication tampering cases, and whose expert testimony had resulted in maximum sentences for hundreds of criminals who had attempted exactly the type of sophisticated pharmaceutical manipulation, cardiac drug substitution, and systematic medication fraud that she was executing against someone she assumed was just another isolated elderly woman with valuable assets, limited medical knowledge, and no professional connections to detect or prevent systematic medication fraud, elder abuse, and pharmaceutical crimes involving cardiac drug. The systematic methodology that Victoria was employing to commit pharmaceutical murder against me through cardiac medication tampering was identical to the criminal patterns that I had spent 3 decades studying, documenting, analyzing, and exposing through forensic toxicological analysis, expert court testimony, and comprehensive federal investigation protocols. Her medication substitution techniques matched case studies that I had personally developed for FBI healthcare fraud training programs and DEA pharmaceutical crime investigation courses. Her cardiac drug manipulation methods followed patterns that I had identified and organized pharmaceutical crime networks during my collaboration with federal law enforcement agencies. Her coordination of systematic medication tampering with fabricated medical emergencies and health crisis documentation replicated criminal enterprises that I had successfully exposed through comprehensive forensic investigations resulting in federal authorities, prosecutions, maximum sentences, and landmark legal precedents for systematic medication fraud, pharmaceutical elder abuse, and attempted murder through cardiac drug manipulation involving elderly victims with valuable estates and trusting family relationships. Victoria's professional confidence in her ability to commit undetected pharmaceutical murder was based on her 8 years of experience as a pharmacy technician at Mountain View Medical Center, her detailed knowledge of cardiac medications and drug interactions through her pharmaceutical training and hospital computer access, her systematic observation of my medication routines and health management practices, and her assumption that elderly cardiac patients recovering from recent heart attacks represented ideal targets for systematic pharmaceutical exploitation through medication tampering. That would appear to be natural progression of existing cardiac conditions. What she never realized was that her target was the person who had created the very detection protocols that medical examiners, coroners, and forensic investigators use to identify systematic pharmaceutical murder by medical professionals and healthcare workers with access to prescription medications and elderly patients. Two patients, Saskers Ebe 2T, two patients. Her criminal methodology was being conducted against someone who had literally written the forensic toxicology handbook that investigators use to prosecute organized pharmaceutical crimes involving medication tampering, cardiac drug substitution, hidden aggravated, and systematic elder abuse through medical manipulation. The specific toxicological analysis procedures that would expose Victoria's medication tampering Bapazanasmidiacs had been personally developed by me during my career as Balasos, Chief of Cardiac Toxicology, for federal investigation agencies. The blood chemistry detection methods that would prove her systematic drug substitution had been designed through my coordination with forensic laboratories and medical examiner offices during major pharmaceutical crime prosecutions involving elderly victims and healthcare professional perpetrators. The systematic examination of her tampered medications would be conducted using analytical methodologies that I had created specifically for prosecution of organized pharmaceutical crime networks involving medical professionals who exploited their access to prescription drugs and elderly patients to commit systematic murder through medication manipulation and cardiac drug tampering schemes. The comprehensive forensic analysis of blood samples, medication residues, and toxicological evidence would utilize detection protocols that I had personally designed during my collaboration with federal prosecutors and medical crime investigators to ensure maximum prosecution success rates in complex pharmaceutical murder cases involving sophisticated criminal methodologies and healthcare professional perpetrators. The specific medical examiners, heliologies, and forensic toxicologists who would investigate Victoria's pharmaceutical crimes maintained ongoing professional relationships with the me that dated back decades of successful collaboration in medication tampering, prosecution, pharmaceutical fraud investigation, and forensic toxicology case development. The federal investigators who would examine her systematic drug substitution scheme had been trained using protocols that I had developed during my career in pharmaceutical crime detection and elder abuse prevention. The comprehensive exposure of her criminal enterprise would be accomplished using forensic analysis techniques that I had personally designed and implemented against organized pharmaceutical crime networks involving healthcare professionals who own CAMAS exploited their medical access and pharmaceutical knowledge to commit systematic drought crimes against elderly victims with valuable assets and limited family oversight. Victoria's systematic approach to committing pharmaceutical murder against me through cardiac medication tampering demonstrated every single criminal methodology that forensic investigators had identified as characteristic of organized medical crimes involving healthcare professionals, prescription drug access, and systematic exploitation of elderly patients with cardiac conditions and valuable estates. Her medication substitution patterns followed techniques that I had documented in federal case studies for pharmaceutical crime investigation training programs. Her systematic health crisis fabrication matched methodologies that I had identified in comprehensive fraud investigations involving medical professionals who exploited patient vulnerability and family trust to commit systematic elder abuse through pharmaceutical manipulation and medical record falsification. Her coordination of systematic pharmaceutical crimes with inheritance planning, medical emergency fabrication, and family manipulation replicated criminal enterprises that I had successfully exposed through forensic toxicological analysis and expert court testimony, resulting in maximum sentences, professional license revocation, and complete asset forfeiture for healthcare professionals who exploited their medical access and pharmaceutical knowledge to commit systematic murder and elder abuse against vulnerable patients with substantial estates and trusting family members who relied upon medical professional recommendations and pharmaceutical expertise for patient care decisions. The timing of Victoria's escalation from systematic medication research and dosage calculation to comprehensive pharmaceutical murder scheme coincided perfectly with forensic investigation priorities that I had personally helped establish during my career in pharmaceutical crime prevention and elder abuse protection through medical fraud detection. Federal agencies were actively seeking evidence of organized pharmaceutical crime networks involving healthcare professionals with prescription drug access. Victoria's systematic medication tampering would provide exactly the comprehensive evidence that her prosecutors needed to secure maximum sentences against coordinated criminal enterprises involving healthcare professional exploitation of elderly patients, prescription drug manipulation, and systematic pharmaceutical murder through cardiac medication tampering and medical record falsification. The professional credentials that Victoria relied upon to provide cover for her systematic pharmaceutical crimes manager were exactly the qualifications that made her medication tampering subject to the most severe penalties available for healthcare professional criminal prosecution. Medical professionals and pharmacy technicians who exploited their pharmaceutical access and medical knowledge to commit systematic crimes against elderly patients faced mandatory minimum sentences, permanent professional license revocation, federal criminal prosecution under elder abuse statutes, and asset forfeiture procedures. That would ensure complete personal and financial destruction through comprehensive legal accountability for pharmaceutical crimes involving elderly victim exploitation and systematic medication manipulation. The systematic documentation that Victoria was maintaining about my apparent medication confusion, increasing cardiac symptoms, and progressive health decline was creating exactly the type of evidence pattern that forensic investigators required to aggravated pharmaceutical murder and systematic elder abuse through medical manipulation. Her detailed records of my supposed medication management difficulties, cardiac episode frequency, and medical appointment discussions would provide prosecutors with ironclad proof of systematic criminal planning, comprehensive pharmaceutical crime coordination, and deliberate elder abuse that would result in federal charges, carrying mandatory sentences without possibility of early release under federal pharmaceutical crime and elder abuse prosecution statutes. Victoria's assumption that elderly cardiac patients recovering from recent heart attacks represented ideal targets for systematic pharmaceutical murder was based on cultural stereotypes about elderly medical vulnerability, professional arrogance derived from her pharmacy technician training and hospital computer access, and criminal psychology that had been the downfall of hundreds of healthcare professional criminals. during my career in forensic investigation, expert court testimony, and pharmaceutical crime prosecution coordination with federal law enforcement agencies. Her confidence in exploiting what she perceived as medical vulnerability, medication management confusion, and family dependency was identical to the criminal psychology that I had studied and documented in comprehensive analysis of organized pharmaceutical crime networks, involving healthcare professionals who systematically targeted elderly patients with cardiac conditions, valuable estates, and limited family oversight for financial exploitation through medication tampering, medical record falsification, and systematic elder abuse schemes involving prescription drug manipulation and fabricated medical emergencies. Her systematic approach to pharmaceutical murder through cardiac medication tampering matched patterns that I had identified in federal training programs for pharmaceutical crime detection, medical fraud investigation, and elder abuse prevention protocols used by law enforcement agencies, medical examiner offices, and forensic toxicology laboratories throughout North America to detect and prosecute healthcare professionals who exploited their medical access and pharmaceutical knowledge to commit systematic crimes against vulnerable elderly patients with substantial assets and trusting family relationships. A tapsurer ou rebolonals use prefix. To Victoria Chen, my daughter-in-law, I was just Margaret Sterling, a frail 74-year-old woman recovering from a heart attack. Someone who seemed perfect for her deadly scheme. Victoria saw me as the ideal victim. I lived alone in my mountain cabin at 4827 Pine Ridge Valley Road. I appeared confused about my medications. I seemed grateful for her help with my cardiac recovery. What she observed was exactly what I wanted her to see. Victoria's assessment began 9 months earlier. She started visiting after my heart attack. I had spent 12 days at Riverside Regional Medical Center. Dr. James Patterson was my cardiologist. The coronary care unit had monitored me closely. Victoria came as the quote, 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 quote. Her pharmacy technician training kicked in immediately. She cataloged what she thought were my vulnerabilities. BD. She saw an elderly woman struggling with medications. Someone overwhelmed by complex cardiac prescriptions. A perfect target for pharmaceutical murder. Victoria kept a leather-bound notebook. She called it her family care journal. Really, it was surveillance documentation. She recorded every interaction, every conversation about my medications. Every moment I seemed confused. She documented my obvious confusion with prescription bottles. She noted when I asked questions about drug interactions. Victoria interpreted my careful inquiries as cognitive problems. She thought I couldn't manage my cardiac treatment anymore. What Victoria didn't realize was different. I was conducting my own investigation. Every question I asked was deliberate. I was testing her pharmaceutical knowledge. I was gathering evidence of her suspicious interest in my medications. She recorded my dependency on pill organizers. She noted my written medication schedules. Victoria saw these as signs of cognitive decline. Actually, they were systematic documentation tools. I was creating evidence for future prosecution. Victoria's confidence came from her job. She worked as a pharmacy technician at Mountain View Medical Center. 8 years of experience with prescription drugs. Access to hospital computer systems. Knowledge of cardiac medication protocols. 8 years of ACAME presenter. This background made her dangerous. She understood drug interactions. She knew which medications could kill. She had legitimate access to pharmaceutical information. Victoria thought this made her untouchable. Her experience with elderly cardiac patients created blind spots. She had seen genuine medication confusion before. Real cognitive decline in aging patients. Family dependency during recovery periods. This experience convinced her that elderly people were easy targets. Victoria brought cultural assumptions to her assessment. Ageist stereotypes about elderly women. Beliefs about medication management capabilities. Professional arrogance from her medical training. These biases prevented her from seeing the truth. Epitaya has trepidatides. She conducted systematic surveillance of my daily routines. Victoria timed her visits carefully. She observed my medication schedules, she documented my apparent limitations. Her pharmacy training taught her to be methodical. But her cultural biases created massive blind spots. Victoria couldn't recognize that I was conducting counter-surveillance. She missed the signs of my professional background. She failed to detect my forensic investigation techniques. Margaret? I presented a carefully calculated appearance during her visits. My slower movements seemed like cardiac weakness. Really, they followed rehabilitation protocols. My cardiologist had recommended deliberate pacing for optimal recovery. Victoria interpreted my magnifying glasses as vision problems. She thought I couldn't read prescription labels properly. Actually, I was conducting detailed pharmaceutical analysis, the same techniques I'd used for decades in forensic investigations. My frequent questions about medications seemed like confusion to Victoria. She thought I was dependent on family guidance. Really, I was systematically gathering information, testing her knowledge, documenting her responses for evidence. Victoria documented my social isolation during recovery. She noted my limited visitors, my reduced community activities, my apparent withdrawal from professional networks. She saw vulnerability where there was actually strategic privacy. My decreased social activity was deliberate. I maintained professional relationships through secure digital channels, encrypted communication with federal investigators, confidential correspondence with forensic toxicologists. Victoria never detected these connections. She assumed I had technological limitations. Victoria saw my preference for paper records as generational gaps. My telephone communication with doctors seemed outdated. My written medication logs appeared primitive. Actually, these were sophisticated security protocols, paper trails for evidence preservation, secure communication methods, systematic documentation for potential prosecution, operational security from decades of criminal investigation work. Victoria used emotional manipulation during visits. She exploited my apparent dependency on family support. She positioned herself as my pharmaceutical expert. Her medical terminology created psychological pressure. She assumed this would prevent independent medical verification. Victoria thought I trusted her expertise completely. She believed I was grateful for her guidance. She was building psychological control for her murder scheme. Victoria timed her involvement strategically. She told David about my, quote, accelerating cardiac decline. She emphasized my medication management confusion. She created urgency about family intervention. Victoria presented herself as the solution. Her pharmacy credentials provided credibility. Her hospital experience seemed impressive. She positioned herself as essential for my pharmaceutical care. She gradually increased her involvement in my medical affairs. More medication reviews, more prescription discussions, more family meetings about my declining capacity. Victoria was building systematic control. Her documentation created comprehensive records, details about my confusion with prescriptions, records of my dependency on her guidance, evidence of my cognitive decline affecting medication management. Victoria projected professional authority during pharmaceutical discussions. Her pharmacy technician credentials impressed David. Her medical terminology sounded authoritative. Her drug interaction warnings created fear. She used this authority to prevent outside verification. Victoria discouraged independent medical consultations. She positioned herself as the family's pharmaceutical expert. She created barriers to external oversight. Victoria provided David with specific examples of my confusion. Stories about medication timing mistakes, claims about prescription dosage errors, reports of my anxiety about drug interactions. These fabricated examples served multiple purposes. They built family consensus about my incapacity. They justified increased pharmaceutical supervision. They positioned Victoria as essential for my safety. Her experience at Mountain View Medical Center was crucial. Victoria had observed genuine medication confusion in elderly patients, real cognitive decline during cardiac recovery, legitimate family dependency during treatment. This experience helped her create convincing simulations. She could mimic authentic medical confusion. She understood which behaviors would seem realistic. She knew how to exploit family concerns effectively. Victoria initiated family meetings about my, quote, pharmaceutical needs. She presented systematic evidence of declining capacity. She built consensus about intervention necessity. She positioned herself as the obvious choice for increased oversight. Her coordination of apparent incapacity with criminal planning was sophisticated. Victoria combined professional pharmaceutical knowledge with calculated vulnerability assessment. She used strategic family positioning for maximum control. The documentation she maintained would support her murder narrative. Records showing progressive cardiac decline. Evidence of medication management incapacity. Justification for family intervention in medical decisions. Victoria's assessment of my medical naivete was strategic. She observed my trusting acceptance of her explanations, my apparent gratitude for pharmaceutical guidance, my seeming confusion about complex cardiac protocols. She interpreted this as cognitive decline requiring family protection. Victoria positioned herself as defending me against potential exploitation. Ironically, she was the one planning systematic exploitation through pharmaceutical murder. Her timing coincided with important medical decisions. Prescription renewals were approaching. Cardiac treatment modifications were scheduled. These required my informed consent and pharmaceutical understanding. Victoria's documentation provided justification for family involvement. Her records of cognitive decline supported intervention arguments. Her pharmaceutical expertise positioned her as the essential coordinator. She systematically manipulated family perceptions about my declining capacity. Victoria coordinated her observations with David's natural concerns. She exploited his emotional investment in my welfare. She leveraged his professional obligations, limiting direct oversight. Her medical expertise provided professional validation for family concerns. Victoria positioned herself as the solution for pharmaceutical oversight. She became the essential liaison between my healthcare providers and family support. The documentation Victoria maintained created systematic evidence, records supporting medical conservatorship proceedings, evidence for healthcare decision-making authority, justification for pharmaceutical management modifications. These records would give David and Victoria comprehensive control, authority over my medical decisions, management of my prescription regimens, protection from potential exploitation during my apparent decline. Victoria's assessment relied on cultural stereotypes, ageist assumptions about elderly pharmaceutical capabilities, gender-based prejudices about medication management, professional arrogance from her pharmacy training. These stereotypes created systematic blind spots. They prevented recognition of my superior medical knowledge. They masked my toxicological expertise. They hid my pharmaceutical crime detection capabilities. Victoria's confidence in exploiting medical confusion was identical to criminal psychology I had studied, patterns I had documented in pharmaceutical crime networks, methodologies targeting elderly cardiac patients with valuable assets. Her systematic approach matched organized criminal enterprises, healthcare professionals exploiting elderly vulnerability, pharmacy workers using legitimate access for murder, systematic medication tampering for financial gain. Victoria's assessment reached its final phase when she began coordinating with Dr. Patricia Williamson. She discussed my, quote, declining cardiac condition with medical professionals. She prepared the groundwork for systematic medication substitution. Victoria was ready to begin her pharmaceutical murder scheme. She had assessed my vulnerabilities. She had positioned herself for control. She had created documentation supporting her narrative. Roulette tasmissé. She planned to use her pharmaceutical access at Mountain View Medical Center, her knowledge of cardiac drug interactions, her understanding of medication timing protocols, her ability to substitute look-alike medications. Victoria believed she had found the perfect victim, an isolated elderly woman with valuable assets, someone with apparent medication confusion, a target with no professional connections to detect pharmaceutical tampering. She had no idea about my true background, my decades of toxicological expertise, my experience investigating pharmaceutical crimes, my professional relationships with federal investigators. Victoria thought she was targeting a vulnerable cardiac patient. Actually, she was about to attempt pharmaceutical murder against the former Chief of Cardiac Toxicology, the person who had developed the detection protocols for her exact type of crime. Hakim Pollens Tachalafhuatuari, the irony was about to become devastating. Victoria's systematic assessment had identified the worst possible target for pharmaceutical murder, someone whose entire career had been built on detecting and prosecuting medication tampering schemes. Her careful planning was about to collide with superior expertise. Her pharmaceutical knowledge would prove inadequate against toxicological training. Her criminal methodology would be immediately recognizable to someone who had investigated hundreds of identical cases. Victoria was confident in her assessment. She believed her surveillance had been thorough. She thought her psychological manipulation had been effective. She assumed her pharmaceutical expertise made her untouchable. She was about to discover how catastrophically wrong she had been. Her systematic targeting of Margaret Sterling would become the most documented pharmaceutical murder attempt in federal court history. Her confidence would transform into complete destruction. The surface perception that guided Victoria's criminal planning was about to shatter against the hidden reality of her target's true identity and capabilities. Victoria Chen's pharmaceutical murder scheme began with desperation. Her gambling addiction had spiraled out of control over the past 3 years. Casino debts exceeded $250,000 across multiple creditors. Credit cards were maxed out at $85,000. Personal loans from predatory lenders carried impossible interest rates. Her financial crisis had reached critical mass 6 months before my heart attack. Victoria had been stealing from patient accounts at Mountain View Medical Center, small amounts at first. $20 here, $50 there. Then larger sums as her desperation grew. The hospital audit discovered her theft in March. $127,000 missing from patient medication accounts. Victoria was fired immediately. Criminal charges were pending. Professional Licensing Board investigation was underway. Her pharmacy technician career was destroyed. David didn't know about any of this. Victoria had hidden her gambling addiction for years. She intercepted mail about debts. She created fake employment documents. She maintained the appearance of financial stability while drowning in criminal liability. My heart attack in April presented Victoria with what she saw as divine intervention, an opportunity to solve all her problems through inheritance fraud. My estate was worth $2.3 million. The mountain cabin alone was valued at $800,000. Life insurance policies totaled $1.5 million. Victoria's systematic approach to pharmaceutical murder began with research. She used her remaining hospital computer access before termination. Medical databases provided information about cardiac drug interactions. Toxicology reports showed how certain combinations could trigger fatal arrhythmias. She studied my prescription regimen with professional precision. Metoprolol for blood pressure control, lisinopril for cardiac protection, warfarin for blood thinning, atorvastatin for cholesterol management. Each medication had specific timing requirements, precise dosage protocols, narrow therapeutic windows. Victoria identified the perfect murder weapon in my own medicine cabinet. Metoprolol was critical for heart rhythm control. The wrong dosage could trigger dangerous arrhythmias. Too much would cause bradycardia and cardiac arrest. Too little would allow dangerous tachycardia. Her pharmaceutical knowledge revealed the killing mechanism. Metoprolol looked similar to several other medications. White round tablets with similar markings, easy to substitute without detection, especially for someone with apparent vision problems and medication confusion. Victoria researched the specific substitute she would use. Propranolol tablets looked nearly identical to metoprolol. Same size, same color, similar markings. But propranolol had different cardiac effects. Combined with my warfarin, it could trigger fatal bleeding complications. The substitution plan was elegantly simple. Victoria would gradually replace my metoprolol with propranolol tablets. My cardiac monitoring would show increasing irregularities. Blood tests would reveal dangerous interactions. My apparent confusion would prevent accurate symptom reporting. Grassy, She calculated the timeline for systematic murder. Small substitutions initially. 1 or 2 tablets per week. Gradual increase in propranolol percentage. Progressive cardiac decline over 6 to 8 weeks. Natural appearing death from cardiac complications. Victoria's access to pharmaceutical supplies came from her connections at Mountain View Medical Center. Former colleagues who didn't know about her termination. Pharmacy staff who trusted her professional requests. Security gaps in medication inventory systems. She obtained propranolol tablets through systematic theft. Small quantities from different pharmacy locations. Various lot numbers to avoid detection. Multiple sources to prevent suspicious patterns. Professional knowledge of inventory control weaknesses. Victoria's murder timeline coincided with my apparent vulnerability. Recent heart attack recovery. Complex medication regimen. Limited family oversight. Apparent cognitive decline. Perfect conditions for systematic pharmaceutical manipulation. Her systematic approach included documentation of my, quote, deteriorating condition. Victoria kept detailed notes about my apparent confusion. Records of medication errors I was supposedly making. Evidence of progressive cardiac decline requiring family intervention. She coordinated her scheme with Dr. Patricia Williamson at Mountain View Medical Center. Victoria presented herself as the concerned daughter-in-law. She described my apparent medication management problems. She requested consultations about cardiac treatment modifications. Dr. Williamson became unwitting accomplice through Victoria's manipulation. Professional discussions about my cardiac care. Recommendations for medication monitoring. Suggestions for family involvement in treatment decisions. Medical authority supporting Victoria's narrative. Victoria's psychological manipulation of David was crucial for her scheme. She presented gradual evidence of my declining condition. Stories about medication, confusion. Reports of cardiac symptoms. Concerns about my safety living alone in the mountain cabin. Her professional medical background provided credibility with David. Pharmacy technician credentials seemed impressive. Hospital experience appeared authoritative. Medical terminology sounded convincing. Technical knowledge created trust in her assessments. Victoria strategically timed family interventions. Visits when I seemed most confused. Medical discussions during apparent cardiac episodes. Emergency calls about my condition. Gradual escalation of family concerns about my safety and medication management. She documented every interaction for future legal protection. Notes about my grateful acceptance of help. Records of my apparent relief at family support. Evidence of my increasing dependency on her pharmaceutical guidance. Legal cover for systematic intervention. Victoria's murder preparation included backup plans for various scenarios. Alternative substitution strategies if initial approach failed. Different cardiac medications if propranolol proved ineffective. Multiple methods to trigger fatal drug interactions. Her research into my daily routines provided operational security. Knowledge of my medication timing. Understanding of my visitor schedule. Awareness of my privacy preferences. Information about my limited family contact. Victoria planned to present my death as natural cardiac progression. Recent heart attack providing medical justification. Complex medication regimen explaining potential complications. Advanced age supporting natural death narrative. Professional medical consultation validating cardiac decline. She coordinated with local funeral arrangements. Contacts at Morrison Funeral Home. Discussions about quick cremation procedures. Plans for minimal autopsy requirements. Strategies to avoid detailed toxicological analysis. Victoria's financial planning for inheritance included immediate asset liquidation. Real estate sales through predetermined contacts. Investment account transfers to offshore banking. Life insurance claim processing through professional consultants. Systematic wealth transfer to avoid taxation. Her escape planning involved international relocation after inheritance settlement. Property purchases in countries without extradition treaties. Identity documentation for permanent residents abroad. Financial accounts beyond law enforcement reach. Complete disappearance from United States jurisdiction. Victoria's operational security included communication encryption, secure messaging for sensitive discussions, encrypted email for financial planning, anonymous phone services for illegal contacts, digital security protocols to avoid detection. She researched law enforcement investigation procedures, typical protocols for elderly death investigations, autopsy requirements for cardiac fatalities, toxicological analysis timeframes, legal standards for suspicious death determination. Victoria's knowledge of forensic procedures came from her medical background, hospital experience with death investigations, pharmacy understanding of drug testing, professional awareness of toxicological analysis, technical knowledge of detection limitations. Her confidence in avoiding detection was based on several factors. My apparent medication confusion would explain drug interactions. My advanced age would support natural death. My limited family contact would reduce suspicious scrutiny. Her professional medical background would provide credible explanations. Victoria planned systematic evidence destruction after my death. Disposal of substituted medications. Elimination of research documentation. Destruction of communication records. Complete removal of murder evidence. Her timing strategy involved holiday periods for reduced scrutiny. Limited hospital staffing during investigation. Delayed toxicological analysis due to laboratory backlogs. Reduced law enforcement attention during busy periods. Optimal conditions for avoiding detailed examination. Victoria's social manipulation extended beyond family members. Professional relationships with medical staff. Connections with pharmaceutical suppliers. Contacts in legal and financial services. Network of accomplices for various scheme elements. Medical staff. She prepared emotional responses for my death discovery. Appropriate grief demonstrations. Professional medical explanations. Family support coordination. Public appearance management during investigation period. Victoria's legal preparation included consultation with estate attorneys, understanding of inheritance procedures, knowledge of probate court requirements, awareness of beneficiary rights, professional guidance for asset transfer. Her financial calculations included specific inheritance amounts, real estate valuations, investment portfolio assessments, life insurance policy details, total estate value projections, expected timeline for wealth access. Victoria planned systematic medication substitution acceleration as my condition deteriorated. Increased propranolol percentages in daily doses. More frequent tablet replacements. Higher concentration of dangerous drug interactions. Faster progression toward fatal cardiac events. Her monitoring protocols included observation of cardiac symptoms, documentation of apparent medication effects, recording of family concerns about my condition, evidence collection for natural death narrative, professional medical consultation about treatment modifications. Victoria's backup murder methods included alternative drug substitutions, different cardiac medications with fatal interactions, various dosage manipulation strategies, multiple approaches to trigger cardiac failure, systematic poisoning through pharmaceutical access. She researched specific toxicological detection limitations, time requirements for comprehensive analysis, laboratory capacity constraints, technical difficulties in identifying certain drug interactions, professional knowledge of forensic medicine weaknesses. Victoria's post-murder planning included immediate inheritance claims, legal consultation for probate procedures, financial account access requests, insurance policy claim submission, estate liquidation coordination with professional services. Her systematic approach to family manipulation during the murder period included gradual preparation for my death, increased discussions about my declining health, professional medical consultations supporting terminal prognosis, emotional preparation for inevitable loss, psychological conditioning for quick acceptance. Victoria coordinated with her gambling creditors for delayed payment schedules, promises of inheritance settlement, agreements for debt restructuring, temporary payment relief during estate processing, criminal pressure reduction through murder planning. Her professional network provided crucial support for the murder scheme. Former hospital colleagues for pharmaceutical access, medical contacts for professional consultations, legal professionals for estate planning, financial advisors for wealth management, criminal associates for operational security. Bonus: Victoria's research into my professional background was superficial and fatally flawed. She knew I was retired from some kind of medical work, government position involving laboratory analysis, consulting work with law enforcement agencies. But she never investigated the specific nature of my expertise. Her assumptions about my professional connections were completely wrong. Victoria assumed retirement meant isolation from former colleagues. Government work seemed bureaucratic and irrelevant. Consulting appeared to be minor advisory roles. She had no idea about my continued relationships with federal investigators. The systematic substitution plan began during my recovery period. Victoria started with single tablet replacements. 1 metoprolol exchanged for propranolol per week. Gradual increase in substitution frequency. Progressive pharmaceutical murder through cardiac medication tampering. Her confidence in success was based on my apparent vulnerability, recent cardiac trauma, complex medication regimen, limited family oversight, apparent cognitive decline, professional medical background providing cover, perfect conditions for pharmaceutical murder. Victoria's final preparation phase involved accelerated substitution timing, multiple tablet replacements per medication cycle, higher concentration of dangerous drug interactions, systematic cardiac poisoning through pharmaceutical manipulation, calculated progression toward fatal heart rhythm disturbances, mocosidazole. She was ready to commit the most sophisticated pharmaceutical murder in Riverside County history. Professional medical knowledge, systematic substitution planning, family manipulation coordination, legal preparation for inheritance claims, complete confidence in her criminal methodology. Victoria never suspected that her systematic pharmaceutical murder scheme was being conducted against someone whose entire professional career had been dedicated to detecting exactly her type of criminal methodology. Her careful planning was about to collide with superior expertise in pharmaceutical crime investigation. The systematic approach that Victoria had developed for committing pharmaceutical murder represented textbook criminal methodology, professional exploitation of elderly vulnerability, medical knowledge used for homicidal purposes, family relationship manipulation for criminal gain, systematic evidence preparation for legal protection. Her scheme matched patterns that I had investigated hundreds of times during my career. Healthcare professional exploitation of patient access, pharmaceutical knowledge used for systematic murder, cardiac medication tampering in elderly victims, family relationship abuse for financial gain through homicide. Victoria's systematic criminal methodology was about to encounter the person who had developed the detection protocols for her exact type of pharmaceutical crime. Her confidence in superior planning would prove to be the foundation of her complete destruction. The moment when Victoria committed fully to pharmaceutical murder was when she began the systematic substitution of my cardiac medications. She believed she had identified the perfect victim, someone with apparent vulnerabilities and valuable assets, a target with no professional connections to detect systematic pharmaceutical manipulation. She had no idea that her systematic murder attempt was being conducted against Dr. Margaret Sterling, former Chief of Cardiac Toxicology, expert in pharmaceutical crime detection, federal consultant for medication tampering investigations, the person whose expertise would guarantee her immediate detection and prosecution. Victoria's systematic approach to pharmaceutical murder was about to become evidence for her own federal prosecution. Her careful planning would provide prosecutors with comprehensive proof of premeditated homicide. Her professional methodology would result in maximum sentences for pharmaceutical murder and elder abuse. The systematic criminal enterprise that Victoria had developed was about to encounter the most sophisticated pharmaceutical crime detection capabilities in federal law enforcement. Her murder scheme would become the most thoroughly documented case of healthcare professional homicide in criminal justice history. What Victoria Chen never discovered was my true identity. She saw a vulnerable, elderly cardiac patient. The reality was completely different. I was Dr. Margaret Sterling, former Chief of Cardiac Toxicology at the National Poison Control Center, the world's leading expert in pharmaceutical murder detection. My career began in 1989. Fresh out of nursing school at Denver University, I started as an emergency room nurse at Denver General Hospital. Night shifts in Trauma Bay. Life and death decisions every hour. High-stress medical emergencies around the clock. The ER exposed me to every type of poisoning. Accidental overdoses from confused patients. Intentional drug poisoning from suicide attempts. Industrial chemical exposure from workplace accidents. Household toxin ingestion from cleaning product mishaps. I learned to recognize poison symptoms instantly. Dr. Michael Rodriguez noticed my talent early. Complex poisoning case came in midnight shift. Multiple drug overdose with conflicting symptoms. Unclear toxicological profile confused everyone. I identified the specific combination through systematic analysis. My detective work saved the patient's life. Dr. Rodriguez recommended me for toxicology training. My education expanded rapidly after that breakthrough. Bachelor's degree in chemical biology from Colorado State University, master's in toxicological sciences from University of California. Doctoral studies in forensic medicine from Johns Hopkins University. Specialized certification in cardiac toxicology from Harvard Medical School. Federal agencies noticed my growing expertise. FBI Healthcare Fraud Division requested consultation. DEA Pharmaceutical Crime Unit sought my analysis. Secret Service medical fraud experts wanted my input. Each case taught me new criminal methodologies. Each investigation revealed pharmaceutical crime patterns. My first major case changed everything. Elderly poisoning in retirement communities across Colorado. Systematic medication tampering by healthcare workers. Complex drug substitution schemes targeting wealthy residents. Professional exploitation of patient vulnerability for inheritance fraud. Criminal networks spanning multiple states. The investigation lasted 18 months. Multiple law enforcement agencies involved. FBI coordinated federal response. DEA handled pharmaceutical aspects. Local police managed ground operations. I analyzed hundreds of medication samples. Testified in dozens of court proceedings. We exposed massive criminal enterprise. 12 healthcare professionals convicted of elder abuse. Nurses stealing medications from elderly patients. Pharmacy technicians substituting dangerous drugs. Medical assistants falsifying treatment records. $50 million in fraudulent inheritance claims recovered. The convictions made national headlines. Healthcare professional exploitation of elderly patients. Systematic medication tampering for financial gain. Professional credentials used for criminal purposes. Maximum sentences under federal elder abuse statutes. Landmark legal precedents for pharmaceutical crime prosecution. My expertise became nationally recognized overnight. Federal agencies requested regular consultation. Medical schools invited guest lectures. Law enforcement sought specialized training. Professional journals published my research. International conferences featured my presentations. The National Poison Control Center recruited me in 1995. Chief of Cardiac Toxicology position offered. Federal security clearance required. Access to classified databases granted. Coordination with international agencies authorized. Leadership role in protocol development assigned. My responsibilities included comprehensive oversight. All cardiac drug poisoning investigations required my review. Federal investigator training programs needed my input. Toxicological analysis procedures required my approval. Expert testimony in criminal cases demanded my participation. Research into pharmaceutical threats required my leadership. The Atlanta headquarters became my operational base. State-of-the-art laboratory facilities available. Advanced analytical equipment at my disposal. Classified database access for criminal intelligence. Secure communication systems for federal coordination. International cooperation protocols for complex cases. My team included the nation's best toxicologists. PhD scientists from prestigious universities, former federal investigators with decades' experience, medical doctors specializing in poisoning cases, laboratory technicians with advanced certifications, administrative staff with security clearances. The cases we handled involved major criminal enterprises. The California Elder Abuse Network targeted nursing home residents. Healthcare professionals systematically poisoned wealthy patients. Medication tampering schemes worth millions of dollars. Professional criminal conspiracy across multiple states. The Phoenix pharmaceutical fraud ring was even more sophisticated. Wealthy cardiac patients targeted specifically. Expensive medications substituted with dangerous alternatives. Systematic insurance fraud combined with potential homicide. International money laundering through offshore companies. Professional medical credentials used for criminal cover. The Atlanta hospital conspiracy shocked the medical community. Coordinated medication tampering by hospital staff. Systematic poisoning of wealthy cardiac patients. Professional exploitation of medical access privileges. Criminal network extending across multiple healthcare facilities. Organized inheritance fraud through pharmaceutical murder. Each investigation required comprehensive forensic analysis. Blood samples examined for unusual combinations. Medication analyzed for substitution evidence. Medical records reviewed for suspicious patterns. Professional backgrounds investigated for criminal connections. Financial records analyzed for fraudulent transactions. My expertise in cardiac drug interactions became legendary. Every major heart medication understood completely. Dangerous combination effects memorized precisely. Systematic tampering signatures recognized instantly. Detection protocols developed for pharmaceutical fraud. Criminal methodologies cataloged for investigation reference. The laboratory capabilities I developed were cutting edge. Mass spectrometry systems for drug identification. Chromatography analysis for pharmaceutical composition. Spectroscopic examination of medication samples. Computer databases for toxicological comparison. Advanced equipment for microscopic analysis. My professional relationships extended worldwide. FBI Healthcare Fraud Division investigators trusted my analysis. DEA pharmaceutical crime specialists sought my consultation. Secret Service medical fraud experts requested my testimony. Interpol toxicology coordinators valued my input. International agencies relied on my expertise. The training programs I created became federal standards. Pharmaceutical crime recognition for law enforcement. Investigation techniques for healthcare fraud. Expert testimony preparation for prosecutors. Coordination protocols for multi-agency operations. Detection methods for systematic poisoning. My research publications established academic credibility. Peer-reviewed articles in toxicological journals. Medical textbook chapters on pharmaceutical crime. Training manuals for federal investigators. Legal precedent analysis for court proceedings. International conference presentations on emerging threats. Professional recognition came from multiple sources. Federal Service Awards for outstanding contributions. National Toxicology Association Lifetime Achievement Honors. International Forensic Science Society distinctions. Academic Institution Distinguished Service Recognition. Law Enforcement Agency Appreciation Certificates. The specific protocols I developed became industry standards. Detection methods for systematic substitution. Recognition patterns for professional tampering. Analysis techniques for complex interactions. Investigation procedures for elderly targeting. Evidence collection for criminal prosecution. My consultation work continued after official retirement. Expert witness testimony in major cases. Advisory roles in complex investigations. Training development for new techniques. Research coordination with universities. Professional mentoring for young toxicologists. The database systems I helped create were comprehensive. Medication tampering case histories documented. Healthcare professional conviction records maintained. Toxicological analysis results stored. Investigation outcome tracking systems. International criminal coordination networks. My security clearance provided classified access. Federal pharmaceutical threat assessments reviewed. International criminal organization intelligence analyzed. Emerging drug trafficking patterns studied. Professional criminal network analysis conducted. Classified toxicological research data accessed. The digital forensics training I received was extensive. Electronic evidence collection techniques learned. Computer analysis for pharmaceutical investigations. Communication monitoring for criminal coordination. Financial transaction analysis for money laundering. Digital security for federal systems. My understanding of criminal psychology was comprehensive. Healthcare professional exploitation patterns analyzed. Patient trust abuse methodologies studied. Criminal network development within facilities. Financial motivation analysis for crimes. Psychological profiling of healthcare criminals. The federal coordination protocols I established were groundbreaking. Multi-agency investigation procedures developed. Information sharing between organizations streamlined. International cooperation for pharmaceutical crime enhanced. Academic research collaboration systems created. Professional training program coordination improved. My knowledge of pharmaceutical manufacturing was detailed. Drug production processes understood completely. Quality control procedures for safety analyzed. Distribution systems for prescriptions mapped. Security protocols for inventory reviewed. Regulatory oversight of manufacturing studied. The legal expertise I developed was comprehensive. Federal criminal law applications mastered. Expert witness testimony techniques perfected. Evidence presentation for complex cases refined. Prosecutor coordination for maximum sentences achieved. Legal precedent development for pharmaceutical crime established. My surveillance detection training came from federal protocols. Criminal surveillance technique recognition learned SR protocols. Counter-surveillance methods for protection developed. Operational security for investigations maintained. Communication security for coordination ensured. Threat assessment capabilities enhanced. The equipment I had access to was state-of-the-art. Portable toxicological analysis systems available. Microscopic examination tools for investigations. Chemical testing kits for immediate identification. Secure communication devices for coordination. Database access for real-time intelligence. My professional network included respected experts worldwide. Federal investigators with decades experience. Academic researchers in toxicological science. International law enforcement coordinators. Medical professionals specializing in detection. Pharmaceutical industry security specialists. The ongoing relationships I maintained were extensive. Federal agency advisory role continuation. Academic institution research collaboration. International law enforcement coordination. Professional association leadership positions. Medical journal editorial board participation. My understanding of elderly vulnerability was comprehensive. Healthcare professional targeting of patients analyzed. Family relationship manipulation for gains studied. Systematic isolation of victims documented. Financial motivation for inheritance fraud understood. Professional exploitation patterns recognized. The detection protocols I developed were revolutionary. Cardiac medication tampering recognition perfected. Investigation techniques for systematic poisoning created. Evidence collection for prosecution standardized. Expert testimony preparation systematized. Federal court presentation methods refined. My knowledge of criminal networks was extensive. Organizational structure analysis conducted. Professional recruitment methods studied. Communication systems for fraud mapped. Financial distribution mechanisms analyzed. International expansion patterns documented. The security protocols I maintained were rigorous. Operational awareness techniques practiced. Criminal targeting indicator recognition trained. Counter-surveillance methods for activities used. Communication security for information maintained. Emergency response procedures for threats prepared. My digital investigation capabilities were advanced. Electronic evidence collection mastered. Computer analysis for crime perfected. Communication monitoring for coordination used. Financial transaction analysis conducted. Digital security for systems maintained. The specific cases that prepared me were identical. Healthcare professionals targeting elderly patients. Systematic medication substitution for gain. Family relationship exploitation for fraud. Professional credentials for criminal cover. Cardiac drug tampering for murder. My expertise in drug interactions was complete. Every major heart medication understood. Dangerous combination effects memorized. Systematic tampering signatures recognized. Analysis techniques for substitution perfected. Detection methods for manipulation developed. The toxicological analysis capabilities were comprehensive. Advanced identification techniques mastered. Chemical composition examination perfected. Drug interaction calculation methods refined. Systematic substitution detection standardized. Professional tampering recognition automated. My federal coordination capabilities were immediate. Law enforcement resource access available. FBI healthcare fraud specialist communication. DEA pharmaceutical crime unit coordination. International investigator collaboration. Criminal intelligence database verification. The training I received was extensive. Federal law enforcement techniques mastered. Surveillance and counter-surveillance methods learned. Evidence collection and preservation perfected. Interview and interrogation techniques trained. Undercover operation protocols understood. My legal procedure understanding was comprehensive. Federal criminal prosecution requirements known. Expert witness testimony standards mastered. Evidence presentation techniques perfected. Prosecutor coordination for sentences achieved. Legal precedent development for crime established. The preparation that equipped me was perfect. Healthcare, professional criminal pattern recognition. Family relationship exploitation method understanding. Financial motivation factor analysis. Systematic elderly targeting technique detection. Professional credential abuse recognition. My expertise in medication authentication was comprehensive. Understanding of pharmaceutical manufacturing processes. Knowledge of quality control procedures. Familiarity with drug identification markings. Recognition of legitimate versus counterfeit medications. Detection of systematic substitution patterns. The digital imaging systems provided documentation capabilities. High-resolution cameras for evidence capture. Specialized lighting for detail revelation. Infrared photography for hidden information. Ultraviolet imaging for alterations. Computer enhancement for analysis. Database access included federal criminal intelligence systems, FBI healthcare fraud division records, DEA pharmaceutical crime databases, international Interpol coordination networks, academic research institution data, professional association information systems. My knowledge of cardiac drug interactions was encyclopedic. Every major heart medication understood completely. Dangerous combination effects memorized precisely. Therapeutic window calculations mastered. Side effect profiles documented thoroughly. Interaction warnings cataloged systematically. The portable testing equipment included field analysis capabilities, chemical test strips for immediate identification, reagent kits for drug classification, pH testing for medication verification, density analysis for composition, color reaction tests for authenticity. Secure communication systems ensured federal coordination. Encrypted messaging for sensitive information. Satellite phones for remote locations. Digital security protocols for classified data. Authentication systems for official communications. Emergency contact procedures for immediate response. My understanding of pharmaceutical crime patterns was extensive. Healthcare professional exploitation methodologies. Systematic medication tampering techniques. Criminal network organizational structures. Financial motivation analysis frameworks. Victim targeting selection criteria. The analytical software included advanced comparison systems. Drug interaction calculation programs. Chemical composition databases. Criminal pattern recognition algorithms. Statistical analysis for systematic crimes. Predictive modeling for investigation. Federal laboratory relationships provided backup capabilities. National Institute of Standards testing. FDA pharmaceutical analysis services. CDC toxicological examination. Military chemical analysis facilities. Academic research institution support. DIL. My expertise in evidence preservation was meticulous. Chain of custody documentation procedures. Contamination prevention protocols. Storage requirements for different materials. Legal admissibility standards. Expert testimony preparation methods. Catastrophic. The detection protocols I developed were revolutionary. Systematic substitution recognition patterns. Professional tampering identification methods. Criminal methodology classification systems. Investigation prioritization frameworks. Prosecution evidence requirements. Quality assurance procedures ensured accuracy. Regular equipment calibration schedules. Proficiency testing participation. Peer review of analysis results. Double verification of critical findings. Error prevention systematic protocols. My knowledge of criminal psychology was comprehensive. Healthcare professional criminal motivations. Patient exploitation psychological patterns. Criminal network recruitment methods. Financial pressure indicators. Behavioral analysis for detection. The surveillance detection equipment included counterintelligence capabilities. Electronic sweep devices for monitoring. Communication interception detection. Digital surveillance identification. Physical surveillance recognition. Operational security protocols. Federal coordination capabilities provided immediate response. Direct contact with specialized units. Priority processing for urgent cases. Expedited analysis for active investigations. Expert consultation for complex situations. Testimony scheduling for prosecutions. My understanding of international pharmaceutical crime was extensive. Global criminal network operations. Cross-border medication trafficking. International money laundering schemes. Diplomatic coordination for prosecutions. Extradition procedures for criminals. The documentation systems included comprehensive recording. Digital photography of all evidence. Video recording of analysis procedures. Audio documentation of observations. Written reports for legal proceedings. Computer databases for case tracking. My continued development never stopped. Emerging pharmaceutical threat education ongoing. Advanced analytical technique training current. International expert coordination maintained. Evolving criminal methodology research active. Professional network maintenance for coordination. The moment I detected Victoria's scheme was routine. Daily medication self-monitoring protocols standard. Portable equipment analysis revealed substitution. Chemical composition showed propranolol presence. Professional tampering signatures immediately recognizable. Federal investigation protocols automatically triggered. Victoria's methodology matched investigated patterns exactly. Healthcare professional elderly exploitation. Systematic cardiac medication substitution. Family relationship manipulation for cover. Financial motivation through inheritance fraud. Professional credential abuse for access. Her criminal approach was textbook pharmaceutical murder. Professional knowledge for homicidal purposes. Medical access for elderly targeting. Systematic substitution for cardiac poisoning. Family manipulation for legal protection. Financial motivation for systematic killing. The expertise Victoria attempted to deceive was specifically designed. Pharmaceutical crime detection for healthcare professionals. Elderly targeting methodology recognition. Cardiac drug tampering investigation. Federal coordination for immediate response. Maximum prosecution for systematic murder. Victoria unknowingly targeted the worst possible victim. Chief of Cardiac Toxicology with detection expertise. Pharmaceutical crime investigation specialist. Federal law enforcement coordinator. Expert witness for maximum sentences. Professional dedicated to healthcare criminal prosecution. Her systematic murder attempt targeted the expert. Detection protocol developer for her methodology. Federal coordination specialist for her crime type. Expert testimony professional for her prosecution. maximum sentence advocate for her punishment, career dedicated to her criminal defeat. Victoria's confidence would encounter comprehensive detection, pharmaceutical crime investigation capabilities, federal law enforcement coordination, advanced toxicological analysis, expert witness testimony preparation, maximum prosecution for systematic murder. The hidden reality Victoria never suspected was devastating. Systematic pharmaceutical murder against detection expert, healthcare professional crime against investigation specialist, elderly targeting against protection advocate, financial fraud against prosecution professional, criminal methodology against federal coordinator. Her murder scheme was observed by the expert, analyzed by the professional, documented by the specialist, coordinated by the federal consultant, prosecuted by the testimony expert, sentenced by the maximum advocate. Victoria's systematic planning would become prosecution evidence, professional methodology for criminal proof, healthcare access for federal charges, elderly targeting for maximum sentences, financial motivation for life imprisonment, criminal coordination for complete destruction. The comprehensive forensic arsenal that Victoria unknowingly challenged represented 32 years of specialized expertise, advanced analytical equipment, cutting-edge detection protocols, federal database access, international coordination capabilities, professional relationships spanning global law enforcement agencies. My personal laboratory at the mountain cabin contained portable versions of federal equipment, high-resolution microscopy systems for medication analysis, spectroscopic analysis devices for chemical identification, digital imaging equipment for evidence documentation, secure communication systems for federal coordination, advanced testing capabilities rivaling major laboratories. The microscopic analysis equipment included electron microscopy systems, magnifications exceeding 50,000x for detailed examination, revelation of microscopic details invisible to naked eye, paper fiber composition analysis capabilities, ink particle distribution examination, pen pressure variation detection systems, chemical composition analysis utilized advanced spectroscopy, infrared spectroscopy for molecular identification, mass spectrometry for compound analysis, X-ray fluorescence for elemental detection, ultraviolet examination for alterations, nuclear magnetic resonance for structural analysis. Legal expertise included federal prosecution requirements, evidence admissibility standards, expert witness qualification criteria, testimony presentation techniques, cross-examination preparation methods, appellate court procedures. My knowledge of pharmaceutical manufacturing was detailed, production process quality controls, distribution chain security measures, regulatory compliance requirements, anti-counterfeiting technologies, supply chain vulnerability assessments. The emergency response protocols included immediate activation, 24-hour federal contact procedures, rapid analysis for urgent cases, emergency testimony for time-sensitive prosecutions, crisis communication with agencies, priority processing for active threats. Professional training included continuous education, advanced analytical technique courses, emerging threat identification seminars, criminal methodology analysis workshops, legal procedure update training, international coordination conferences. My expertise in elderly targeting included vulnerability analysis, healthcare access exploitation patterns, family relationship manipulation methods, financial motivation assessment criteria, isolation technique recognition, protection protocol development. The research capabilities included academic collaboration, university partnership programs, peer-reviewed publication preparation, conference presentation development, training material creation, professional education coordination. Federal security clearance provided classified access. Threat assessment intelligence reports. Criminal organization analysis documents. Emerging pharmaceutical crime patterns. International cooperation intelligence. Classified research data. My knowledge of medication tampering was comprehensive. Substitution technique identification. Alteration method recognition. Contamination pattern analysis. Systematic poisoning detection. Professional manipulation signatures. The mobile laboratory equipment included portable systems. Field testing capabilities. Immediate analysis results. Preliminary identification procedures. Evidence collection tools. Communication systems. Quality control procedures ensured reliability. Standard operating protocols. Calibration verification schedules. Accuracy testing procedures. Proficiency examination participation. Error prevention systems. My understanding of criminal networks was extensive. Organizational structure analysis. Communication pattern recognition. Financial flow tracking. Recruitment method identification. Operational security assessment. The advanced testing procedures included specialized analysis. Isotope ratio examination. Crystalline structure analysis. Molecular fingerprinting. Chemical aging determination. Manufacturing source identification. Federal training programs included specialized education. Healthcare fraud investigation techniques. Pharmaceutical crime detection methods. Elderly abuse recognition patterns. Financial fraud analysis procedures. Criminal prosecution preparation. My expertise and expert testimony was comprehensive. Federal court qualification procedures. Evidence presentation techniques. Cross-examination preparation methods. Jury communication strategies. Appellate testimony procedures. The coordination protocols included multi-agency procedures. FBI collaboration frameworks. DEA cooperation agreements. International liaison systems. Academic partnership protocols. Professional association coordination. Digital forensics capabilities included electronic analysis. Computer evidence examination. Communication monitoring systems. Financial transaction tracking. Digital security assessment. Electronic evidence preservation. My knowledge of pharmaceutical security was extensive. Manufacturing protection measures. Distribution monitoring systems. Retail security protocols. Prescription tracking procedures. Counterfeit detection methods. The analytical validation included accuracy verification. Method development procedures. Performance characteristic testing. Uncertainty measurement calculations. Traceability establishment. Competency demonstration. Federal database access included comprehensive systems. Criminal history records. Pharmaceutical crime patterns. Healthcare professional violations. International coordination data. Academic research findings. My understanding of cardiac toxicology was encyclopedic. Drug mechanism knowledge. Interaction pathway analysis. Therapeutic monitoring procedures. Adverse effect recognition. Emergency treatment protocols. Imanidas factoro efeudatagers. The equipment maintenance included regular servicing, calibration schedule compliance, performance verification testing, preventative maintenance procedures, emergency repair protocols, replacement planning systems. Professional relationships included global networks, international expert coordination, academic collaboration systems, federal agency partnerships, industry security coordination, professional association leadership. My expertise in case management was systematic. Investigation planning procedures, evidence coordination protocols, timeline development methods, resource allocation systems, progress monitoring frameworks. The specialized software included analysis programs, statistical calculation systems, pattern recognition algorithms, database query interfaces, report generation tools, communication platforms. Federal consultation included advisory services, policy development input, training program design, protocol establishment, research coordination, international cooperation. My knowledge of criminal investigation was comprehensive. Evidence collection procedures, interview techniques, surveillance methods, financial analysis, digital forensics. The portable equipment included field capabilities, immediate testing systems, evidence collection tools, documentation equipment, communication devices, analysis instruments. Quality systems included comprehensive protocols, document control procedures, record-keeping requirements, training documentation, competency assessment, continuous improvement. My understanding of pharmaceutical regulation was extensive. FDA oversight procedures, manufacturing compliance requirements, distribution monitoring systems, prescription tracking protocols, violation enforcement methods. The detection algorithms included automated systems, pattern recognition software, anomaly identification programs, statistical analysis tools, predictive modeling systems, alert generation protocols. Federal coordination included immediate response, priority processing procedures, expedited analysis services, emergency consultation availability, rapid testimony scheduling, crisis communication protocols. My expertise in elderly protection was comprehensive. Vulnerability assessment methods, exploitation recognition patterns, prevention protocol development, investigation procedures, prosecution support. The analysis procedures included validated methods, standard operating protocols, quality control measures, accuracy verification systems, traceability requirements, documentation standards. Professional development included continuous learning, advanced training participation, conference attendance, research collaboration, publication preparation, teaching responsibilities. Lobby. My knowledge of international crime was extensive. Global network operations, cross-border coordination, diplomatic procedures, extradition processes, intelligence sharing. The emergency protocols included rapid response, immediate activation procedures, priority processing systems, expedited analysis capabilities, emergency testimony availability, crisis coordination, POS. Federal relationships included trusted partnerships, long-term collaboration, mutual assistance agreements, information sharing protocols, joint investigation procedures, coordinated prosecution. My expertise in pharmaceutical crime was legendary. Comprehensive knowledge base, advanced analytical capabilities, federal coordination experience, international recognition, professional leadership. The specialized arsenal Victoria challenged was unmatched. 32 years of development, federal backing and support, international coordination, advanced technology, professional expertise. Her systematic murder attempt would encounter the most sophisticated detection capabilities available. Advanced analytical equipment, federal coordination systems, expert testimony preparation, maximum prosecution support, complete criminal destruction. Victoria's pharmaceutical knowledge was amateur compared to my expertise. Her substitution techniques were textbook examples. Her criminal methodology was recognized immediately. Her professional credentials were inadequate. Her confidence was catastrophically misplaced. The arsenal Victoria unknowingly challenged would guarantee her immediate detection, comprehensive analysis of her substitutions, federal coordination for prosecution, expert testimony for conviction, maximum sentences for crimes, complete professional destruction. Her systematic planning would become evidence. Professional knowledge would become liability. Medical access would become criminal charge. Family manipulation would become aggravating factor. Financial motivation would become motive proof. The specialized capabilities Victoria faced were specifically designed for her exact crime type: healthcare professional pharmaceutical murder, elderly cardiac patient targeting, systematic medication substitution, family relationship exploitation, financial motivation through inheritance. Menace. Her confidence in superior planning would shatter against superior expertise. Amateur criminal knowledge against professional detection. Limited pharmaceutical understanding against comprehensive toxicology. Isolated planning against federal coordination. Individual effort against institutional capability. Victoria's systematic murder scheme would encounter the perfect counter-arsenal. Detection designed for her methodology. Analysis for her substitutions. Coordination for her prosecution. Testimony for her conviction. Punishment for her crimes. The cosmic perfection of Victoria's catastrophic target selection transcended simple irony. It achieved mathematical precision in criminal stupidity. Every element of her pharmaceutical murder scheme represented textbook examples. Exact criminal methodologies I had studied for decades. Patterns I had detected hundreds of times. Techniques I had testified against in federal court. Victoria's signature forgery of medical records matched my landmark research. Systematic detection of healthcare document fraud in elder abuse cases, published in Journal of Forensic Medicine in 2003. Required reading for federal investigators. Standard reference for pharmaceutical crime prosecution. Training manual for law enforcement agencies worldwide. Her medication substitution techniques demonstrated classic indicators. Conscious pharmaceutical manipulation patterns. Systematic drug replacement methodologies. Professional exploitation of patient vulnerability. Healthcare access abuse for criminal purposes. Financial motivation through elderly targeting. The propranolol substitution Victoria employed was case study number 47, my comprehensive analysis of cardiac drug tampering. Detailed documentation of identical criminal methodology. Professional healthcare worker exploitation of elderly patients. Systematic cardiac medication replacement for homicidal purposes. Financial gain through inheritance fraud schemes. Victoria's systematic approach to medical record fabrication matched exactly my identification protocols. Orange County Elder Abuse Network investigation patterns. Healthcare professional document manipulation techniques. Systematic falsification of patient treatment records. Professional credential exploitation for criminal credibility. Family relationship manipulation for legal protection. The timing coordination Victoria used replicated criminal enterprises. San Diego medical fraud conspiracy methodologies. Professional healthcare worker coordination with family members. Systematic medical emergency fabrication for legal cover. Financial crisis motivation for pharmaceutical murder. Healthcare access exploitation for elderly targeting. Her psychological manipulation techniques demonstrated textbook patterns. Elder abuse through medical authority exploitation. Healthcare professional trust manipulation. Family relationship coordination for criminal cover. Financial desperation motivation for systematic murder. Professional credential abuse for victim deception. Victoria's research into cardiac drug interactions followed my training materials. FBI Healthcare Fraud Division Educational Protocols. DEA Pharmaceutical Crime Unit Reference Guides. Federal Investigator Training Program Case Studies. Law Enforcement Detection Methodology Frameworks. Professional criminal pattern recognition systems. The specific medications Victoria targeted were featured examples. My Comprehensive Cardiac Toxicology Reference Manual. Federal Prosecution Evidence Preparation Guidelines. Expert Testimony Presentation Materials. International Law Enforcement Training Programs. Academic Research Publication Case Studies. Her systematic documentation of my declining condition matched patterns. Los Angeles County Conservatorship Fraud Investigation. Healthcare Professional Fabrication of Patient Incapacity. Systematic Evidence Creation for Legal Manipulation. Family Relationship Exploitation for Financial Gain. Medical Authority Abuse for Criminal Purposes. Victoria's coordination with unwitting medical professionals replicated schemes. Atlanta Hospital Conspiracy Investigation Findings. Healthcare worker manipulation of colleague professionals. Systematic medical consultation for criminal credibility. Professional network exploitation for legal cover. Medical authority coordination for murder planning. The financial motivation driving Victoria's scheme was identical. Gambling addiction, criminal catalyst patterns. Professional healthcare worker, financial desperation, criminal exploitation of elderly patient assets. Systematic inheritance fraud through pharmaceutical murder. Healthcare access abuse for financial gain. Her operational security measures matched criminal methodologies. Phoenix Pharmaceutical Fraud Ring Investigation Discoveries. Healthcare professional evidence destruction techniques. Systematic communication security for criminal coordination. Digital security protocols for illegal activities. Professional credential exploitation for legal protection. Victoria's victim selection criteria followed documented patterns. Elderly cardiac patient targeting methodologies. Healthcare professional vulnerability assessment techniques. Family relationship exploitation for criminal access. Social isolation identification for reduced detection risk. Valuable asset verification for financial motivation. The systematic substitution timeline Victoria planned was case study number 23. My analysis of healthcare professional pharmaceutical murder. Gradual medication replacement for reduced suspicion. Progressive cardiac decline fabrication for natural death appearance. Professional medical consultation for credibility maintenance. Family coordination for legal protection. Her backup murder methods demonstrated criminal sophistication. Alternative cardiac drug substitution strategies. Multiple pharmaceutical manipulation techniques. Various dosage alteration methodologies. Systematic poisoning through healthcare access. Professional knowledge exploitation for homicidal purposes. Victoria's escape planning followed organized crime patterns. International money laundering investigation findings. Criminal asset liquidation for rapid relocation. Offshore banking coordination for wealth transfer. Identity documentation for permanent disappearance. Professional network exploitation for criminal support. The legal preparation Victoria conducted matched criminal enterprises. Estate planning manipulation for inheritance fraud. Probate court procedure exploitation for financial gain. Legal document falsification for credibility maintenance. Professional consultation for criminal cover. Family relationship manipulation for legal authority. Her digital security protocols replicated sophisticated criminals. Encrypted communication for illegal coordination. Secure messaging for criminal planning. Anonymous financial transactions for money laundering. Digital evidence destruction for investigation avoidance. Professional technology exploitation for operational security. Victoria's medical consultation coordination was textbook methodology. Healthcare professional network exploitation for credibility. Medical authority manipulation for criminal support. Professional colleague deception for legal cover. Clinical consultation falsification for murder planning. Healthcare system abuse for homicidal purposes. The systematic monitoring Victoria planned matched criminal patterns. Patient observation for optimal murder timing. Cardiac symptom fabrication for natural death appearance. Medical emergency coordination for family preparation. Professional documentation for legal protection. Healthcare consultation for criminal credibility. Her family manipulation techniques followed documented schemes. elderly abuse through relationship exploitation, professional medical authority for psychological control, financial motivation concealment through emotional manipulation, criminal planning coordination through family involvement, healthcare expertise, exploitation for victim deception. Victoria's pharmaceutical theft methodologies were case study number 156. My analysis of healthcare worker medication access abuse. Systematic prescription drug theft for criminal purposes. Professional inventory system exploitation for illegal acquisition. Hospital security vulnerability for pharmaceutical crime. Healthcare credential abuse for drug access. The evidence destruction Victoria planned replicated criminal enterprises. Systematic elimination of pharmaceutical crime evidence. Professional knowledge for forensic countermeasures. Healthcare access for evidence contamination. Medical consultation for credibility maintenance. Criminal methodology for investigation avoidance. Her timing strategy matched organized crime patterns. Holiday period exploitation for reduced scrutiny. Medical staff shortage for investigation limitations. Laboratory backlog for delayed toxicological analysis. Law enforcement distraction for criminal opportunity. Professional consultation for murder timing. Victoria's social network manipulation followed documented methodologies. Healthcare professional relationship exploitation for criminal support. Medical colleague deception for credibility maintenance. Professional association abuse for operational security. Industry connection exploitation for pharmaceutical access. Healthcare network coordination for criminal enterprise. The psychological preparation Victoria conducted was textbook criminal behavior. Emotional response planning for murder discovery. Professional explanation preparation for suspicious death. Family support coordination for grief appearance. Medical consultation for natural death credibility. Healthcare expertise for investigative deception. Her financial calculation precision matched sophisticated criminals. Inheritance amount verification for motivation assessment. Asset liquidation planning for rapid wealth access. International transfer coordination for money laundering. Professional consultation for legal tax avoidance. Criminal enterprise coordination for maximum profit. Victoria's systematic acceleration planning replicated murder schemes. Progressive medication substitution for cardiac decline. Increased pharmaceutical manipulation for faster death. Enhanced family coordination for reduced suspicion. Professional consultation for medical credibility. Healthcare expertise for natural appearance. The monitoring protocols Victoria established followed criminal patterns. Cardiac symptom observation for murder progression. Medical emergency fabrication for family preparation. Professional documentation for legal protection. Healthcare consultation for credibility maintenance. Family coordination for emotional preparation. Her alternative methodology preparation matched organized crime. Multiple pharmaceutical murder techniques available. Various cardiac drug substitution options prepared. Different timing strategies for optimal results. Professional knowledge for method selection. Healthcare access for implementation flexibility. Victoria's toxicological countermeasure research was amateur compared to my expertise. Limited understanding of detection capabilities. Superficial knowledge of forensic analysis procedures. Inadequate appreciation for investigation sophistication. Professional arrogance about criminal methodology. Healthcare credential overconfidence for legal protection. The specific forensic countermeasures Victoria attempted were documented failures. Case studies of unsuccessful criminal methodology. Analysis of defeated pharmaceutical crime techniques. Investigation of failed healthcare professional murders. Prosecution of inadequate operational security. Conviction of overconfident criminal enterprises. Her systematic approach to avoiding detection followed patterns. Documented criminal methodology from failed cases. Healthcare professional overconfidence in superior knowledge. Medical credential exploitation for legal protection. Professional network abuse for credibility maintenance. Pharmaceutical expertise overestimation for criminal success. Victoria's coordination with international networks was amateur. limited understanding of professional money laundering, superficial knowledge of criminal asset transfer, inadequate operational security for illegal activities, professional arrogance about criminal capabilities, healthcare background overconfidence for illegal success. The backup plans Victoria developed were textbook failures, standard criminal methodology from unsuccessful cases, healthcare professional overestimation of criminal skills, medical knowledge overconfidence for illegal activities, professional credential abuse for legal protection, pharmaceutical expertise misapplication for criminal purposes. Her systematic manipulation of family relationships followed documented patterns. Elder abuse through medical authority exploitation, healthcare professional trust manipulation for criminal gain, family coordination for murder planning assistance, professional expertise for psychological control, medical credibility for victim deception. Victoria's comprehensive criminal enterprise matched organized schemes, multi-element pharmaceutical murder coordination, professional healthcare exploitation for elderly targeting, systematic family manipulation for criminal support, financial motivation through inheritance fraud, healthcare access abuse for homicidal purposes. The international relocation Victoria planned was standard methodology, criminal escape through offshore coordination, professional network exploitation for legal support, financial asset transfer for permanent disappearance, identity documentation for jurisdiction avoidance, healthcare credential portability for international crime. Her systematic exploitation of medical credentials followed patterns: professional authority, abuse for criminal credibility, healthcare expertise for victim manipulation, medical knowledge for murder methodology, pharmaceutical access for homicidal purposes, clinical consultation for legal protection. Victoria's coordination of multiple criminal elements was textbook organization, document fraud through medical record manipulation, pharmaceutical murder through medication substitution, financial fraud through inheritance manipulation, elder abuse through family relationship exploitation, professional fraud through healthcare credential abuse. The systematic timing Victoria coordinated matched criminal enterprises. Medical emergency fabrication for family preparation, professional consultation for credibility maintenance, financial crisis for criminal motivation, healthcare access for murder implementation, family relationship for legal protection. Her comprehensive evidence creation followed documented methodologies: medical record falsification for criminal cover, professional documentation for legal credibility, family coordination for emotional preparation, healthcare consultation for murder justification, financial planning for inheritance fraud. Victoria's systematic approach to criminal coordination was amateur, compared to my detection expertise. Limited understanding of federal investigation capabilities. Superficial knowledge of forensic analysis sophistication. Inadequate appreciation for professional law enforcement. Overconfidence in healthcare credential protection. Misunderstanding of international coordination capabilities. The cosmic perfection of Victoria's miscalculation was mathematically precise. Healthcare professional pharmaceutical murder against toxicology expert. Elderly cardiac patient targeting against protection advocate. Systematic medication substitution against detection specialist. Family relationship exploitation against federal coordinator. Financial inheritance fraud against prosecution professional. Her systematic criminal methodology was being observed by the expert. Professional pharmaceutical murder against investigation specialist. Healthcare access exploitation against federal consultant. Elderly targeting against protection professional. Financial fraud against prosecution advocate. Criminal coordination against law enforcement expert. Victoria's confidence in superior planning would encounter superior expertise. Amateur criminal knowledge against professional detection. Limited pharmaceutical understanding against comprehensive toxicology. Individual criminal planning against federal coordination. Healthcare credential confidence against law enforcement authority. Professional arrogance against institutional capability. The ironic matching was cosmically perfect in every detail. Healthcare professional murder against healthcare crime expert. Pharmaceutical substitution against toxicological specialist. Elderly targeting against protection advocate. Family exploitation against federal coordinator. Financial fraud against prosecution professional. Victoria's systematic approach represented the exact criminal methodology. Patterns I had studied for 32 years. Techniques I had detected hundreds of times. Schemes I had testified against repeatedly. Criminals I had prosecuted successfully. Methodologies I had trained others to defeat. Her pharmaceutical murder attempt was textbook criminal behavior. Healthcare professional exploitation of elderly vulnerability. Systematic medication substitution for homicidal purposes. Family relationship manipulation for criminal cover. Financial motivation through inheritance fraud. Professional credential abuse for legal protection. The cosmic justice was mathematically impossible to be coincidental. Professional pharmaceutical murder against detection expert. Healthcare exploitation against investigation specialist. Elderly targeting against protection advocate. Financial fraud against prosecution professional. Criminal methodology against federal coordinator. Victoria's systematic criminal enterprise would encounter the perfect counter-expertise. Detection designed for her methodology. Analysis for her substitutions. Coordination for her prosecution. Testimony for her conviction. Punishment for her systematic crimes. Her confidence in criminal superiority would shatter against professional expertise. Amateur planning against institutional capability. Limited knowledge against comprehensive understanding. Individual effort against federal coordination. Healthcare credential against law enforcement authority. Criminal methodology against detection specialist. The perfect ironic match guaranteed Victoria's complete destruction. Healthcare professional murder against expert detection. Pharmaceutical crime against toxicological analysis. Elderly exploitation against federal protection. Financial fraud against maximum prosecution. Criminal enterprise against institutional justice. The systematic destruction of Victoria Chen's criminal enterprise began at exactly 6:23 a.m. on Thursday morning. She had no idea I was awake. No knowledge of my portable monitoring equipment. No understanding of my federal coordination capabilities. No concept of the comprehensive trap she was walking into. Victoria entered my cabin using her spare key. Silent footsteps across the hardwood floor. Confident movements toward my medication cabinet. Professional efficiency in her pharmaceutical murder routine. Complete ignorance of the surveillance equipment documenting her every action. I watched through microcameras positioned throughout the cabin. High-definition recording of her systematic medication substitution. Digital documentation of her propranolol replacement technique. Video evidence of her professional pharmaceutical manipulation. Real-time federal coordination of her criminal activity. Victoria opened my metoprolol bottle with practiced precision. Removed 3 tablets with surgical gloves. Replaced them with identical-looking propranolol pills. Sealed the bottle with meticulous care. Disposed of evidence in her personal container. Her confidence was absolute during the substitution process. Years of pharmacy technician training evident. Professional knowledge of cardiac drug appearances. Systematic approach to pharmaceutical murder. Complete faith in her criminal methodology. Trans. What Victoria didn't know was my toxicological monitoring protocol. Daily analysis of my medication samples. Portable equipment for immediate chemical identification. Real-time detection of pharmaceutical substitution. Instant federal notification of tampering evidence. The moment she left my cabin was her point of no return. Federal investigators were already coordinating response. FBI Healthcare Fraud Division mobilizing resources. DEA Pharmaceutical Crime Unit preparing arrest procedures. Multiple agencies converging on comprehensive prosecution. My analysis of the substituted medications took 17 minutes. Spectroscopic identification confirmed propranolol presence. Chemical composition revealed pharmaceutical-grade substitution. Professional tampering signatures immediately recognizable. Federal evidence standards completely satisfied. FBI Special Agent Sarah Martinez arrived within 2 hours. 20-year veteran of healthcare fraud investigation. Personal training from my federal consultation programs. Expert understanding of pharmaceutical crime patterns. Immediate recognition of Victoria's criminal methodology. But for is, Agent Martinez brought comprehensive forensic equipment. Portable laboratory systems for on-site analysis. Digital evidence collection for court proceedings. Secure communication for federal coordination. Advanced testing capabilities for pharmaceutical crimes. Multi be afford vacate. The evidence we collected was overwhelming and irrefutable. High-definition video of medication substitution. Chemical analysis proving systematic tampering. Digital documentation of criminal methodology. Professional witness testimony for prosecution. Complete forensic proof of attempted murder. Victoria's gambling debts provided perfect motivation evidence. $250,000 casino obligations to multiple creditors. $85,000 credit card debt with impossible interest rates. $127,000 hospital theft with pending criminal charges. Complete financial destruction driving pharmaceutical murder. Her professional background became criminal liability enhancement. Pharmacy technician credentials for premeditation proof. Hospital computer access for evidence of planning. Medical knowledge for sophisticated murder methodology. Healthcare position for professional exploitation charges. The federal charges filed against Victoria were comprehensive. First-degree attempted murder through pharmaceutical tampering. Systematic elder abuse with intent to commit financial fraud. Healthcare professional exploitation of patient vulnerability. Federal conspiracy to commit inheritance fraud through homicide. Professional credential abuse for criminal purposes. Asset forfeiture procedures began immediately after charges. Complete seizure of all financial accounts. Confiscation of personal property and vehicles. Freezing of investment portfolios and retirement funds. Recovery of gambling-related luxury purchases. Total financial destruction before trial. Victoria's professional credentials were revoked permanently. Pharmacy technician license suspended immediately. Hospital privileges terminated across all facilities. Professional association memberships canceled. Medical industry employment prohibited. Complete career destruction. The prosecution strategy utilized my expert testimony. Comprehensive explanation of pharmaceutical crime methodology. Professional analysis of systematic medication tampering. Federal court presentation of toxicological evidence. Maximum sentence recommendation for healthcare exploitation. Complete criminal accountability. Victoria's defense attorney attempted plea negotiations. Reduced charges in exchange for cooperation. Information about other potential criminal activities. Assistance in identifying additional victims. Financial restitution for attempted murder. Complete admission of guilt. Federal prosecutors rejected all plea offers. Evidence too strong for negotiation. Criminal methodology too sophisticated for leniency. Professional exploitation too egregious for compromise. Public safety too important for reduced sentences. Maximum prosecution for deterrent effect. The trial became landmark legal precedent. Healthcare professional pharmaceutical murder prosecution. Advanced toxicological evidence presentation. Expert testimony from nation's leading specialist. Federal coordination for complex criminal case. International attention for elder abuse prevention. Quartieradas moxo. My testimony lasted 3 days in federal court. Comprehensive explanation of detection methodology. Professional analysis of criminal pharmaceutical patterns. Expert presentation of toxicological evidence. Federal court qualification as leading specialist. Maximum impact for prosecution case. Victoria's criminal defense collapsed under forensic evidence. Video documentation of systematic substitution. Chemical analysis proving pharmaceutical tampering. Expert testimony explaining murder methodology. Federal investigation revealing comprehensive planning. Complete prosecution success. The jury deliberation lasted 47 minutes. Unanimous guilty verdict on all charges. No doubt about criminal intent or methodology. Clear understanding of professional exploitation. Complete acceptance of expert testimony. Maximum accountability for systematic crimes. Federal sentencing reflected crime severity. Life imprisonment without possibility of parole. Additional consecutive sentences for each charge. Complete asset forfeiture for victim compensation. Permanent professional prohibition from healthcare. International extradition prevention for justice certainty. Victoria's criminal network investigation revealed additional victims. 3 other elderly patients targeted previously. Systematic pharmaceutical manipulation across multiple cases. Professional exploitation of hospital access. Criminal enterprise spanning 18 months. Additional prosecutions for co-conspirators. The case became federal training material. Law enforcement education for pharmaceutical crime. Healthcare industry awareness for professional exploitation. Academic research for elder abuse prevention. International cooperation for criminal methodology. Professional standard for detection excellence. Dr. Patricia Williamson faced professional discipline. Unwitting participation in criminal scheme. Insufficient verification of family claims. Inadequate patient protection protocols. Professional oversight failure. Enhanced monitoring requirements. Mountain View Medical Center implemented security reforms. Comprehensive pharmaceutical inventory monitoring. Enhanced background investigation for staff. Systematic patient protection protocols. Professional oversight for family involvement. Criminal prevention through institutional change. The civil damages awarded exceeded Victoria's lifetime earning potential. Compensation for attempted murder trauma. Punitive damages for professional exploitation. Legal costs for federal prosecution. Expert analysis for case preparation. Complete financial accountability. Media coverage created national awareness. Healthcare professional exploitation of elderly patients. Pharmaceutical crime through medical access. Federal coordination for complex prosecution. Expert detection preventing systematic murder. Professional accountability for criminal exploitation. Below. The educational impact extended internationally. Law enforcement training for pharmaceutical crime. Healthcare industry security enhancement. Academic research for prevention methodology. Professional standard development. Global cooperation for elder protection. Victoria's imprisonment conditions reflected crime severity. Maximum security federal facility. Isolation from other inmates for safety. Limited communication privileges. Restricted visitation rights. Permanent incarceration certainty. The broader investigation revealed systematic vulnerabilities. Healthcare facility security weaknesses. Professional oversight limitations. Patient protection gaps. Criminal opportunity identification. Industry-wide reform requirements. Federal policy changes resulted from the case. Enhanced background investigation for healthcare workers. Systematic pharmaceutical inventory monitoring. Professional exploitation prevention protocols. Elder abuse detection enhancement. Criminal deterrent through maximum sentences. International cooperation expanded after prosecution. Global pharmaceutical crime coordination. Healthcare security information sharing. Professional exploitation pattern recognition. Elder abuse prevention methodology. Criminal network investigation enhancement. My consultation work increased after the case. Federal agency advisory expansion. Academic institution collaboration growth. International law enforcement coordination. Professional training program development. Healthcare security enhancement. The case established legal precedents. Healthcare professional criminal liability standards. Pharmaceutical crime prosecution methodology. Expert testimony admissibility expansion. Federal Coordination Authority enhancement. Maximum sentence justification for professional exploitation. Victoria's co-conspirators faced federal prosecution. Hospital access accomplices. Pharmaceutical theft network members. Money laundering coordination partners. Criminal planning participants. Complete network dismantling. The financial recovery exceeded initial projections. Asset forfeiture from criminal network. Civil damage awards from accomplices. Insurance fraud prevention savings. Healthcare system protection benefits. Economic deterrent for future crimes. Professional licensing boards implemented reforms. Enhanced background investigation requirements. Systematic monitoring for criminal activity. Professional exploitation prevention protocols. Patient protection standard enhancement. Criminal deterrent through career destruction. DIL. The case study became academic curriculum. Medical school ethics education. Law enforcement training programs. Healthcare administration security courses. Criminal justice pharmaceutical crime study. International cooperation methodology. Victoria's family faced social consequences. Community awareness of criminal activity. Professional association with attempted murder. Financial responsibility for civil damages. Social isolation from criminal connection. Permanent reputation destruction. The technological improvements included security enhancement. Pharmaceutical inventory monitoring systems. Professional access tracking technology. Patient protection digital protocols. Criminal activity detection software. Real-time federal coordination capability. Research institutions studied the case extensively. Criminal methodology analysis for prevention. Healthcare security improvement research. Elder abuse pattern recognition study. Professional exploitation detection enhancement. Federal coordination effectiveness analysis. The international attention created cooperation expansion. Global pharmaceutical crime coordination. Healthcare security information sharing. Professional exploitation recognition training. Elder abuse prevention methodology. Criminal network investigation enhancement. Victoria's appeal attempts failed completely. Federal court rejection of all claims. Legal precedent supporting conviction. Evidence overwhelming for reversal. Expert testimony unshakable. Maximum sentence confirmation. Mo Sangui Kol Malau. The case impact extended beyond individual prosecution. Healthcare industry's security transformation. Federal coordination capability enhancement. Professional accountability standard elevation. Elder abuse prevention improvement. Criminal deterrent maximization. Victim advocacy groups praised the outcome. Elder abuse prevention advancement. Healthcare security improvement. Professional accountability enhancement. Federal coordination effectiveness. Criminal justice system success. The comprehensive destruction of Victoria's life exceeded her worst fears. Criminal conviction with life imprisonment. Complete financial devastation. Professional career termination. Social reputation, annihilation. Family relationship destruction. Her gambling debts seemed insignificant compared to consequences. Federal prison instead of financial recovery. Life sentence instead of inheritance wealth. Professional destruction instead of career advancement. Social isolation instead of family respect. Complete annihilation instead of problem solution. Below out fully. The cosmic justice was perfectly complete. Professional pharmaceutical murder, defeated by expert detection. Healthcare exploitation defeated by federal coordination. Elder abuse defeated by professional protection. Financial fraud defeated by maximum prosecution. Criminal confidence defeated by superior expertise. Victoria's systematic planning became prosecution evidence. Professional methodology proving premeditation. Healthcare access proving criminal exploitation. Family manipulation proving elder abuse. Financial motivation proving inheritance fraud. criminal coordination proving organized enterprise. The final irony was mathematically perfect. Pharmaceutical murder attempt against toxicology expert. Healthcare exploitation against protection professional. Elder targeting against federal coordinator. Financial fraud against prosecution specialist. Criminal methodology against detection expert. Victoria Chen had played Russian roulette with my life. She loaded the weapon with pharmaceutical murder. She aimed at what seemed like a vulnerable target. She pulled the trigger with professional confidence. She discovered too late that the chamber was loaded with her own destruction. I played Russian roulette with her freedom. I loaded the weapon with federal prosecution. I aimed with toxicological expertise. I pulled the trigger with professional coordination. The chamber was loaded with life imprisonment. Victoria's desperate attempt to escape financial ruin through pharmaceutical murder had resulted in consequences infinitely worse than her original problems. Complete destruction instead of financial recovery. Life imprisonment instead of inheritance wealth. Professional annihilation instead of career preservation. Social devastation instead of family respect. The case became legendary in federal law enforcement. Perfect example of cosmic justice. Professional expertise defeating criminal methodology. Federal coordination destroying criminal enterprise. Expert detection preventing systematic murder. Maximum prosecution ensuring complete accountability. Victoria Chen would spend the rest of her life in federal prison, reflecting on the catastrophic miscalculation that destroyed her existence. Understanding too late that her systematic pharmaceutical murder attempt had targeted the one person whose expertise guaranteed her complete destruction. The woman she thought was a vulnerable elderly cardiac patient was actually the nation's leading expert in detecting healthcare professional pharmaceutical crimes. Her confident murder scheme had encountered the perfect counter-expertise. Her criminal methodology had met its match in professional detection. Her systematic planning had been defeated by superior knowledge. Her crimolysis. Victoria played Russian roulette with my life and lost everything. Her freedom, her future, her family, her reputation, her existence. The cosmic justice was complete and permanent. The expert had defeated the amateur. The professional had destroyed the criminal. The protector had eliminated the exploiter. Bah! The final lesson was clear for anyone attempting to exploit elderly vulnerability. Justice has experts. Detection has professionals. Protection has coordination. Prosecution has determination. Punishment has permanence. Victoria Chen learned this lesson too late. Her life was over. Her freedom was gone. Her future was destroyed. Her confidence had been shattered by superior expertise. Her criminal enterprise had been annihilated by professional detection. The Russian roulette was finished. Victoria had lost everything. I had protected everything. Justice had prevailed completely. The cosmic irony was perfect and permanent. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.